Our last set of questions for the final review is based on area and volume that are on your MCAS reference sheets. Okay, so it asks us to find the area of the parallelogram. Now, this particular picture is deceiving because to find the formula for area of a parallelogram is simply base times height. But unfortunately, you are not given the height. Okay, height in any 2 or 3 dimensional figure is always perpendicular to the base. So that 26 centimeters is the length of one of the sides. It is not the height. But we can calculate the height because what I have here, because the height's always perpendicular to the base, I have a right triangle. So using Pythagoras' theorem, I can calculate the length of the height. Okay, so remember, A and B are the legs, so it doesn't matter whether the height's A or B. But C must always be your hypotenuse. Okay, so always do exponents before you add or subtract. And 26 squared is 676. Okay, so to solve for h, I need to subtract 100. So that gives me h squared equals 576. And the last step to Pythagoras' theorem is always to take the square root, because taking the square root is the inverse or opposite of squaring a number. So h actually equals the square root of 576. So when I take the square root of 576, we actually get 24. So that is my height. Now, because this is a parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent. So my base is 22. So 22 times 24 gives me an area of 528 centimeters squared. I did before. They are 10 and 26. The numbers are exactly the same. So I've already done the math, which is kind of nice. So I'm good. Next, we're gonna find, it says the trapezoid has a height of 8 meters. Oh, it's not drawn for you. The picture's for question 40. Okay, so a trapezoid can look like this, okay? Height will always be perpendicular to the base, so this is 8. The base length has a base length of 12 meters and an area of 64. What is the length of the other base? Okay, so to find the area of a trapezoid, that formula is 1/2 B1 plus B2 times the height. Actually, on your reference sheet, it has the height in front of the parentheses. Either way, you're multiplying it times the sum of the two bases, okay? Now on a trapezoid, the two bases are your parallel sides. So this is what we're solving for, the length of the other base. Okay, so this is just going to be a lot of algebra because the area we're told is 64. We're told the height is 8. We don't know what the first base is, or you can make the first base 12 and the second base x. It doesn't matter. Okay, now you can do one of two things next. You can distribute the 8 to the parentheses and then divide everything by 2, or you can, because everything's multiplying or dividing, I can do half of 8 first, which is 4, which I prefer to do because it makes things a little simpler. Now I'm only distributing 4 as opposed to 8. So I got 64 equals 4x plus 48, because 4 times 12 is 48. To solve for x, I'm going to subtract 48 from both sides. And when I subtract 64 and minus 48, I get 16. Divide both sides by 4, and what I get is x is equal to 4. So that is the length of my other base. Number 40 asks simply for the area of the trapezoid. So we're going to use the same formula. 1/2 of the height times the sum of my two bases. Okay. And it's nice when my height is an even number, because I can simply take the half of that before. Okay, and I did 18 plus 32. Because we're adding, I could do 32 plus 18. It doesn't make any difference. But half of 16 is 8. Okay. Now I'm sure some of you are like, oh, well, aren't you supposed to do parentheses first? And technically, yes, I am supposed to do parentheses first. But by taking half of 16, I'm not compromising my value in any way, shape, or form, because I could have added 18 plus 32 first to get 50. And then I could have taken half of 16 to get 8. So in this case, I'm not compromising my values in any way, shape, or form. So 8 times 50 is 2,500. So that would be the area of my base. Number 41 is asking us to find the volume of a cone. Okay, so if we look at our formulas for volume, our cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. Okay, where r is my radius and h is my height. Okay. Now, two things here I notice. I don't have a height. That's missing. And I'm not given the radius. I'm given the diameter. Okay? Now, because I know that the radius is half the diameter, I know that each of these from the center of the circle to either edge is 10. Okay, so I know r is 10. But I'm still missing my h. Now, even though the right angle wasn't drawn there, we know that the height of any figure has to be perpendicular to the base for it to be the height. So I can draw the right angle in there. And what I have is a right triangle, very similar to our other problem. So I can solve for the height using Pythagoras' theorem. So I'm going to do the same subset that I did in the previous problem. I'm going to do x squared plus 10 squared equals my hypotenuse squared. And ironically, are these the same numbers? I get 24, even though, so I'm still going to get 100 equals 676. So the numbers are exactly the same. I'm going to end up with x squared is 576, and when I take the square root, my height is 24. Okay, so now I can plug in my height of 24. Okay, so remember exponents first. So 1/3 pi 10 squared is 100 times 24. Now, I've mentioned previously when we were reviewing for MCAS that you should not convert a fraction, specifically 1/3 or 2/3, into a decimal, because 1/3 does not equal 0.3. So for the most accurate answer, what we should do, you can take your fraction line, and if I extend it, I can multiply everything in the numerator first. So I have 100 times pi times 24. And in this case, I used the pi button. I didn't use 3.14. So if you use 3.14, your number is going to be slightly off from mine. But that's not a big deal. We're only talking about tenths of a point. And then my last step would be to divide by 3. And I get 2,513.27. Okay, and again, if you use 3.14, that's absolutely accurate. And so it's not too far, you're not going to get an answer too far off from mine. Both would absolutely be correct. Last question is our easiest. We're again looking for the volume, and if you notice, all of our side lengths are the same. So this is a cube, okay? A cube is a three-dimensional square where all side lengths are the same. Now on your reference sheet, the formula is s cubed. So an S stands for side. So it's just 8 cubed, which is the same as 8 times 8 times 8, or length times width times height. However you want to look at it, still the same, still get the same answer, and 8 times 8 times 8 is 512.